Right, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order. And I've got some opening remarks. The public meeting is being heard by the City Council Planning Advisory Committee, and public notice has been given in accordance with the Planning Act. The non-elected members of the Planning Advisory Committee are Mr. John Baltutis, Mr. David Joyce, Ms. Catherine Brown, and Mr. Paul Jennings. Citizen appointees may ask questions and participate in the discussion in order to assist in making recommendations to City Council, but may not make motions or vote in connection with the public meeting. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Planning Committee or City Council before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the local planning appeal board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering and Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to leave their name and address on the appropriate notification sheet located on the clipboard beside the podium. Thank you. Attendants, I see everyone's present. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll go to public meeting. 3.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 199 Dundas Street East, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1094. Applicant is Joseph Chaco. Owner is MHSA Properties Limited. Mr. Deming.
Thank you. So this property is currently zoned Highway Commercial C3 zone under zoning bylaw 10245. The application proposes to rezone the property to Highway Commercial Zone C3 zone with special provisions to permit a medical clinic in addition to the permitted uses.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Yeah, if so, come forward, state your name, and just activate the microphone there.
Adam Zagorus, owner.
You have to press the button there, Mr. Zagorus.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Haven't been here in a long time.
No.
Adam Zagorus, I'm the president of MHSA Properties Limited, which is the owner of the property. The only comments I'd like to make is that certainly we support the variations being sought by the proposed tenant, who is, the property's been vacant for 2 years, and we've been constantly trying to rent the property as well as sell the property if that was an option. This is the first agreement we've had with someone who, they're a physiotherapy clinic, and for what it's worth, in my submission, it would be a perfect type of business for that location. Not high volume, which isn't going to affect traffic. Lots of parking on the property for that purpose. And certainly it benefits, in my submission, the city to allow the variation so that we can have that property full and be a useful building again in the City of Belleville, as opposed to a vacant property, which it has been for the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions of Mr. Zagorus? No? Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I need a motion to refer to Planning Committee. Councillor Williams, Councillor Kelly, all in favor? Motion's carried. 3.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 8 and 12 King Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1095. Owner applicant is UCB Canada and agent is Investment Management Syndicate Limited. Mr. Deming.
Okay, this property is also currently zoned Highway Commercial C3 zone under zoning bylaw 10245. The application proposes to rezone the property to General Commercial C2 zone with special provisions to permit a parking lot associated with the property located at 2 Dundas Street. 2 Dundas Street was recently rezoned to general commercial C2-49 zone with special provisions to permit parking areas to be located on a different lot and not on the same lot. So this would be in tandem with that application.
Okay, thank you. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
So what do I have to press?
It's already activated, yeah.
Yes, my name is Mohammed Shahid. I'm the owner of the company and also the owner of the 2 Dundas Street as well as this 8 and 12 King Street parcel that we have bought in to have the parking spaces available for 2 Dundas Street project.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? No, see none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, I need a motion to refer to the Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Sanderson and Councillor Culhane, all in favor? Motion's carried. 3.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to official plan and zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, and draft plan of subdivision lots 8 and 9 of registered plan number 124, City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File numbers B-77-1096 and 12T-19003. Owner is Andy Gertzma, GCL Developments Limited. Applicant is GCL Developments Limited, and agent is Loriella Jones McCauley, Show Me House and Limited. Mr. Deming.
This application is for an official plan amendment, a rezoning application, and a plan of subdivision. The application includes the development of 367 residential units of various types and densities, a park, as well as open space and future walkways. Staff note that at the bottom of the page, or the report in front of you on page 5, it states that there's a 50-meter protection area around the Corbyville wetland. That's actually supposed to read 30 meters. They've been in discussion with Quinte Conservation on that. That was just a typo on there. And they're also here with a presentation today.
Okay. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? If I could just get you to activate the microphone. There we go. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of council, members of the Planning Advisory Committee, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy Gertzma. I'm president of GCL Developments. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce Riverstone Development. With me here tonight are Lorelei Jones with McCauley, Show Me House and Planners, and Caitlin Sheehan and Adam Wilson, engineers with Ainley Graham and Associates Limited. Riverstone, as you can see, is located north of the Kenneth Mill subdivision, south of Scott Drive, east of Farnham Road, and extends almost to the Moira River. Riverstone is a unique development in that it features extensive landscaping, a landscape plan that's been developed by a local and award-winning landscape design firm. And as you can see on the plan, it incorporates a centrally located 2-acre park, extensive trees pre-planned for throughout the development, and a wide welcoming entrance boulevard that's going to feature 5 beautifully landscaped islands along its length. On the south side of the boulevard, the homes will be built close to the street, and those homes will be accessed with rear yard garages accessed by a laneway. The benefit of that is that the entrance boulevard for its entire length will be essentially without driveways. One of the additional green space features that have been incorporated in the development is, as you can see on the landscape plan, is a winding tree-lined pathway throughout the park, a separate pathway that winds around a protected marsh area, which pathway will eventually extend to the Moira River. To meet the anticipated market demand, Riverstone will feature a variety of new and common home styles, including attached and detached homes, laneway homes. A block of land will be set aside along Farnham Road for a future apartment building, and another block of land will be set aside adjacent to the Riverfront Trail Network to accommodate proposed development for condominium bungalow townhomes. That completes the introductory part of this proposal. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Lorelei Jones for a more detailed presentation on the planning aspects that have been taken into consideration for this development.
Good evening. My name's Lorelei Jones. I'm with Macaulay Show-Me Housen, and I'm just going to provide a few additional comments. So one of the things that we did after we submitted the application, but before coming here tonight, was hold a non-mandatory open house. We gave notice to all the same people that would have gotten notice for tonight's meeting. We had 7 people come, but we did have a large number of display boards available. We had copies of all the supporting reports available, and so we were able to talk to the people that were interested in the development and provide information if they were interested. And some of them did take home copies of the draft plan and some of the supporting reports. So we didn't hear any specific objections at that meeting, but we did try and reach out to the community. So as Andy was indicating, you can see on the draft plan that there is a fairly extensive amount of parks and open space within this subdivision. It's about 21% of the total area of land. The park itself that's located in the center of the subdivision is about a 2-acre park. As was mentioned at the start of this, we have a 30-meter buffer around the wetland. It's part of the Corbyville Provincially Significant Wetland Complex. And then just to the sort of west of that, we have a little green finger coming off of it, and that's a spring area that feeds into the wetland, and there is a 30-meter buffer around that spring area. So the environmental impact study has looked at the environmental features on the property and is supportive of the boundary of the features that are being retained, as well as the width of the buffer, and taking a look at the features that are within these areas and feel that there's appropriate setbacks and mitigation. There is also a proposed wood chip trail through the buffer area around the wetland, and again, that's part of the environmental impact study, and that was looked at and deemed to be appropriate as long as there are appropriate construction techniques as the trail is itself built. And so the idea is that there is intended to be good open space within the subdivision and also provide for a pedestrian connection from the wetland area to the river area, so that we've got great spots for people to go for walks and so on. As mentioned, there are 367 residential units. We have a combination of kinds of units so that there's a good diversity of opportunities for housing within the community. We've got single detached lots, and the frontages for the single detached sort of regular lots, if I can call them that, are 11 meters. As Andy had mentioned, some of the lots that are being proposed are backing onto laneways. So the laneway lots will have smaller frontages, 8.5 or 10.5 meter frontages, and then there's going to be some semis on those as well. And then there's proposed to be townhouses as well that would back onto the laneways, and those would be 6.7 meter frontages. The standard townhouses are 6 meters, and then we're also proposing bungalow townhouses that would have a frontage of 7.5 meters. So this laneway concept that forms part of this subdivision is something that Gersma Homes has built in Kingston already. It was very well received in the marketplace there, and in fact they won an award of excellence from the city for that particular development. It's within the Lindenwood community in Kingston, and it does make for, in our mind, very attractive streetscapes because there are no garages that are coming out onto the road. And so one of the advantages is it does make for sort of a little bit more of a pedestrian friendly environment. And as Andy had mentioned, as a result of that, we do have some landscape medians that are being proposed down the middle of what we call Street A, which is the main road into the subdivision from Farnham Road. And there's also proposed to be some on-street lay-by parking because there are no driveways out front. So for the visitors that are coming, they would park on the street, but in these lay-by areas, so it's not going to interfere with traffic. And Street A has been designed with a 26-meter right-of-way, which is wider than your normal 20-meter right-of-way to allow the room for these boulevards. And the picture that you have in front of you right now is just some of the examples of how the boulevards down the middle of Street A are proposed to be landscaped. And as Andy mentioned, we are working with a landscape architect to make sure that this is an attractively landscaped development. So as also mentioned, we are proposing for an official plan amendment because right now, the area that's shown on your screen that's hatched on the right-hand side of the screen is the area that's currently designated as open space. And then the shaded areas on the screen are the areas where we are proposing to have open space. And as mentioned, we're proposing that the park would be moved from sort of the east side of the subdivision into the central part of the subdivision because we think that provides better access, particularly given sort of the size and the shape of it. It'll allow for some active play equipment, those kinds of things in the park, and so that's better suited to be more centrally located in the subdivision. One of the things that we have also done with respect to the relocation of this open space area is that we have put it adjacent to, there are two existing houses on the south side of Scott Drive that are not part of this subdivision. And so we have put the open space area adjacent to those houses. So there's a little bit of a transition for them from sort of their current circumstance to the more urban area that they're going to be living in. The other thing that we're obviously asking for is a rezoning application. Right now, the site is zoned development and hazard. The hazard applies to the wetland. And we're proposing zoning that's then obviously going to reflect the draft plan of subdivision that's being proposed. So the zoning itself does provide for some exceptions. One of them is specifically to deal with the laneway housing. The laneway houses that have been proposed actually have an attached garage in the rear. So the zoning has to have some specific provisions that will allow for a fairly narrow single-story portion of the house that would then connect the main house to the garage at the back so that people don't have to go outside to get to their garage. And then there are also some specific requests with respect to the types of units. So we are proposing to have zoning that would allow for several different types of dwelling units within a single zone. So singles, semis, and townhouses. And the thinking behind that is to provide a little bit of flexibility. So it's expected that with obviously this number of units, we're not going to be selling out all of them and building them in a year, although I'm sure they would love to do that. But reflecting the market space that it's going to be built out over a series of years, and that having zoning that allows a little bit of flexibility then allows the developer to respond to the marketplace if things change a little bit. The other thing with respect to the zoning is we are proposing that right now there are lots that are being built immediately south of this subdivision, and we are proposing that there will be singly detached houses, which is reflected in the R1-XX zone on your screen in the southwest corner of the subdivision. So the singles that are being proposed along the south side of that street F would back onto singles in the subdivision to the south, and then where we have townhouses, they're going to back onto townhouses in the subdivision to the south. So the zoning would reflect that. As noted in your staff report, there are a series of supporting studies that were prepared in support of the application. As I mentioned, there was a scoped environmental impact study, a servicing brief, stormwater brief, traffic memo, archaeological assessment, and a phase 1 and 2 environmental site assessment. As also mentioned, there are people here from Ainley tonight if you have any questions with respect to any of the engineering matters. And other than that, that's my presentation and certainly available to answer questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at all from committee members? Mr. Baltutis.
Just for clarification, Andy, you were talking in your initial speech was about pathways.
Yes.
Pathway, a walkway, or a roadway?
It's a walkway.
So it's a
Yes, yes.
Any other questions or comments? I just have one. What's the average square foot that the homes would be? I'm taking a guess based on the diagram, but I thought rather than guessing, I would.
Your question was the average square footage of the
Yeah,
homes?
Yeah.
Haven't really given that a lot of thought, but I'm anticipating it would be similar to any other subdivision. So
Okay.
likely the smallest would be, say, around 1,100 square feet and up from there. That would be my guess.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. You had commented earlier that the proposed new park was 2 hectares?
No, sorry, 2 acres.
Acres, okay. So it seems to me that you're asking us to trade 2 hectares of open space beside the river for 1 hectare park inside the subdivision?
There is additional open space that's being provided on the west side of the wetland area that's not currently designated open space, so it includes the buffers and the spring area.
Oh, so you can't develop in there anyway?
No.
In that buffer zone?
Right.
Okay, but you're counting that as the equal swap?
I didn't say it was an equal swap. I said that, overall, that there is an extensive amount of open space within the subdivision.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have one more question about the wetland. So the original setback, according to your, now this might have been an error. The original setback said it was 50 meters, and it's been reassessed at 30?
Yeah, through the chair. It was 30, I think, all along. It was just in that one specific spot where it was 50 in the report. Yeah, but if you look actually further in the proposal where they're listed what they're proposing, 30 is in there as well. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I would just like to say I'm a little concerned because we're redesignating open space to residential. And if we look at the official plan, and if you look at the official plan for the urban and rural side, just north of Scott Drive is currently as environmental protection. And it certainly looks like this proposed condominium is going to continue northward into that environmental protection zone, which has obviously been redesignated or will be from open space. So I'm assuming there's been a little bit of a creep. I wasn't on the committee before, but it looks like there's been a creep where environmental protection has been changed to open, and then open is now being changed to commercial. And it seems like as you're creeping up the river, we're just continuing to eat away at the environmental protection zone of the river, and in 2 stages, turning it into residential.
Through the chair, I'm not actually aware of like a past history on that. I mean, staff can definitely review that going forward. But the Corbyville provincially significant wetland area is identified by Quinte Conservation and through the province. So that land itself wouldn't be able to be redesignated without their approval.
Mm-hmm.
The 30-meter buffer was approved by Quinte Conservation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Sanderson?
Thank you, through the chair. So I've got a few comments, and I think I'd like to make them at this time. So when you talked about diversity of housing, I sort of look at it in 3 phases. Phase 1 is affordable housing and apartment units. Phase 2 I would describe as duplexes, townhomes, and condominiums. And phase 3 I would define as single-family homes. So there's been a fair amount of discussion federally and provincially about affordable housing. And I think at some point in time, and I think we're probably at that crossroads now, we need to look at new subdivisions that are being developed to have a component of affordable housing. We also, from our housing summit earlier this year, we talked about the need across the entire spectrum. So we've got a need for affordable housing, we've got a need for rental apartment units, and both of those elements are not embodied in this development. So I just wonder if it would be appropriate to ask that some consideration be given to those two components.
Do you want me to respond?
Yeah, if you would like to respond, yeah.
So I understand and appreciate what you're saying. Typically speaking, it's my understanding that if you are going to develop affordable housing that is below market rent in terms of that level of affordability, that there is usually government programs that are involved in assisting with that type of affordable housing. And so, you know, there are certainly apartments that are being proposed as part of the development right at the southeast corner of Farnham and Scott. And so, you know, we are happy to have a discussion with staff as we move forward in terms of if there are programs that are available, but that's, you know, in terms of,
Sure, just a follow on, excuse me. So I attended the County Home Builders Association Awards Gala on the weekend, and both speakers talked extensively about strides that they've made in partnership with their counterparts across the province and with the provincial government on specifically affordable housing. So at some point in time, we need to see those discussions, excuse me, translate into plans. And, you know, it's one thing to talk the talk, but we've got to start walking the walk on affordable housing. And I think it really comes down to developers and builders sort of taking the lead a little bit, and certainly in partnership with the various levels of government. And so on a go-forward basis, I, as a member of the Planning Advisory Council and as a member of council, am really looking to see developments take into account and plan for a section or a component of affordable housing. Thank you.
and in terms of, you know, the location of affordable housing, you know, that needs to be taken into consideration as well in terms of it is often desirable to have those kinds of affordable housing where there is excellent transit access or close proximity to certain kinds of facilities. And, you know, at this point in time, obviously it's might not be the most ideal location from a transit perspective. And certainly, you know, further to what you were saying, you know, there does need to be partnerships with government in this. It's something that needs to be, you know, taken into consideration. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add at this point in time, but, you know, I think we have certainly heard the message that you are delivering tonight.
Okay, thank you. Just one final comment. On transit, that's an excellent point you raise, and I sit on the Transit Committee, and we are putting together a proposal that will end up with public transit in Ward 2 at or about the time that this development is being built out. So thank you for your answers.
Any other questions? Yep, Mr. Joyce.
Well, some of the discussion we've had with new subdivisions are allocating a section for commercial services, you know, whether small shops or convenience stores, et cetera. Is this envisioned anywhere in this new section of the subdivision? Because we're talking, you know, we're going north, and we're just trying to, it's come up in other discussions about allocating space and zoning requirements. Is this something that's been considered at this point?
We're sort of basically on the edge of the urban boundary in this location. And so, you know, typically speaking, it's a little easier for commercial to thrive if it's sort of surrounded by patrons that are going to use it. So it's not something that we had considered specifically because of those locational factors. And we're not, you know, too terribly far from Canifton, and there are some commercial uses there as well. But I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, but no, at this point in time, it's not proposed as part of this subdivision.
Any other questions? Councillor Williams.
Thank you through Mr. Chair, and thank you for bringing this forward. I think it is designed beautifully. I think it adds a lot to that side of Thurlow and those subdivisions. And I think what I really like when we talk about affordability are the mixed middle. So seeing a wide variety of different structures, and I think you've made it really attractive from the street and for that area, and that I think is something, when we do look at affordability, we're looking at different levels of affordability that people can find different price points that meet their needs to be able to have a house, and that's really great in that area. My questions are just on transportation. The streets are wide enough to have the medians in the middle. Do we have bike lanes built in? Are we doing that with new divisions now, looking at how the transportation, how people can take bikes? I know Councillor Carr's asking how better are we able to connect Ward 2 to Ward 1 in the future, but are we also looking at that in the division? Have we talked about that at all?
As far as I'm aware, there are not bike lanes to connect to in this subdivision to somewhere else. And you know, I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to add?
Hi there, I'm Caitlin Sheehan, one of the engineers working on the file. I just wanted to add that when you have a larger right-of-way there, like the 26-meter right-of-way, it's a minor collector, so it has the 3-meter wide asphalt lifestyle trail where people are encouraged to do active biking and running, such like. So it wouldn't be a bike lane on the road, it'd be the active trail, the 3-meter wide.
Okay, great. And I think, you know, and to the point, I think staff will look at the open space, but it's nice to have in the subdivisions that you're planning parkland. And I think that's very important. And, you know, I think more and more we're seeing some divisions that don't have that parks and recreation, and it's great to see that you've added that element into the design. So we'd look forward to seeing more from that.
Okay. Any other questions from committee members? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll ask if anyone else wishes to speak in favor of the application. And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? And finally, a third time, anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the application? Seeing none, can I get a motion to refer? Councillor Sanderson, Councillor Culhane, all in favor? Motion's carried. Can I get a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting? Councillor Kelly, Councillor Sanderson, all in favor? Motion's carried. So moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee, attendance, I see everyone is present. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, can I get confirmation of the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held November 4th, 2019? Ms. Brown, Mr. Baltutis, all in favor? Motion's carried. No deputations, Mr. Clerk? No correspondence? No. Okay, Section 6, referrals from public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended, 199 Dundas Street East, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1094. Applicant is Joseph Chaco, owner is MHSA Properties Limited. Policy Planners Report number PP-2019-83. The resolution reads that report number PP-2019-83 dated December 2nd, 2019 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended, 199 Dundas Street East, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Moved by Mr. Joyce, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Anything you want staff to consider? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. 6.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10-245 as amended, 8 and 12 King Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1095. Owner applicant is UCB Canada. Agent is Investment Management Syndicate Limited. Principals Planners Report number PP-2019-83 2019-84. Resolution reads that report number PP-2019-84 dated December 2nd, 2019 regarding proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended, 8 and 12 King Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. 6.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to official plan and zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended and draft plan of subdivision lots 8 and 9 of registered plan number 124, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1096 and 12T-19003. Owner is Andy Gertzma, GCL Developments Limited. Applicant is GCL Developments Limited. Agent is Laura Lee Jones, Macaulay Show Me Housing Limited. Manager of Approvals, Principal Planners, report number PP-2019-85. Resolution reads that report number PP-2019-85 dated December 2nd, 2019 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meetings for proposed amendment to the official plan and zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended and draft plan of subdivision lots 8 and 9 of registered plan number 124, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Any questions or comments? Mr. Baltutis. Yeah, if you could activate your mic. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Earlier, Councillor Sanderson talked about the transportation or the buses going out that way. Are these roads, would the buses go down into these subdivisions? And second question is, are these roads wide enough to accommodate our transit system? Just, I know we can't answer whether, because it's in the future what the transportation or transit committee is going to do, but.
Well, I'll let, if Councillor Sanderson agrees to it, as chair of the transit committee, he can talk about the plan, and then we can refer to the engineering staff to the roads that are going to get the buses there.
I think it's a great idea. I just.
Yeah, Councillor Sanderson.
So earlier this year, we made application for 4 buses through the ICIP, and through the provincial government have stepped up and they've awarded their end of it, and we're waiting for the feds to do the same. So that pocket of money that's been earmarked for 4 buses, at our last transit meeting, there was some discussion about how we might best service Ward 2, and currently the thought process is we're going to use the on-demand service and perhaps acquire a smaller bus initially just to sort of monitor demand. But the buses would, as it's on demand, would go to a designated bus stop and make pickups in the subdivision.
And I'll refer to Director Ashton in terms of the road network.
So in terms of the width and how they're constructed, they would be constructed the same as any other street in Belleville. So yeah, the road width is sufficient.
Thank you. I guess I should trust you guys more.
It's always good to ask, though. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? That motion's carried. Section 7 reports, 7.1. Recommendation report for proposed amendment to official plan and zoning bylaw number 10245 is amended. 375 to 405 Bridge Street East and 172 to 184 Herkimer Avenue, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B-77-1093. The applicant owner is Algonquin and Lakeshore Catholic District School Board. Agent is Todd Colburn of Colburn and Kemble Architects Incorporated. Principal Planners Report number PP-2019-88. The resolution reads that Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. The application B-77-1093 is amended. The City of Belleville official plan and zoning bylaw number 10245 is amended for 375 to 405 Bridge Street East and 172 to 184 Herkimer Avenue, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be approved as follows. That Schedule B land use plan of the official plan be amended by redesignated portions of the subject lands from residential land use to community facility, and that zoning bylaw number 10245 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject lands to community facility zone with special provisions to reduce the front yard setback, side yard setback, and parking requirements. Moved by Mr. Joyce, seconded by Councillor Sandison. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. 7.2, recommendation report for proposed draft plan of subdivision, Sand Cherry Court, part of Lot 37, Concession 1, former Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, file number 12T-19001. Owner is Sandy Cherry Court, GP Incorporated, care of Sinfind Hosseini. Agent is McIntosh Perry Consulting, Marco Sekic. I apologize if pronunciation's off. Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-42. Resolution that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That approval of the draft plan of subdivision prepared by McIntosh Perry Consulting Engineers Limited, dated July 29, 2015, as shown on attachment 2 to Managers of Approvals, report number APS-2019-42, be granted for the lands identified as part of lots 3 and 4, Registrar's Compiled Plan 1819, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file 12T-19001, subject to the draft plan conditions outlined in attachment 3 to Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-42. Moved by Ms. Brown, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, and through the chair to staff. I know just one question that came up last and just hearing was just the connection of Pepper Court to this division. Did we look at that, and was there any reason to look at that?
Go ahead.
Certainly, yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Williams, the history, we did look back on the history of it, and it was something where, because Pepper is a small local road versus Palmer being a larger order road, the intent was not to drive traffic through there to find a shortcut back to Sydney Street, essentially. So that was the reason why that connection was not proposed. And again, it is to be maintained as an emergency access and a pedestrian connection, but not for regular vehicular traffic.
Thank you. And I know the other bigger question on there was speed and Palmer coming down. Did we look at that as well at this point?
Yeah, I understand engineering didn't have any concerns with the traffic flow on Palmer Road.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? No? All in favor? Motion is carried. 7.2, recommendation report for proposed draft plan of subdivision, Bell Boulevard subdivision, part of Lot 32, Concession 2, former Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, file number 12T-19002. Owner is 2555 111 Ontario Incorporated, care of Bahinder Paul Sharma. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated, Sean Legier. Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-43. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that approval of the draft plan of subdivision prepared by RFA Consultant or Planning Consultant Incorporated, revised to November 14, 2019, as shown on attachment 2 to Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-43, be granted for the lands located north of Bell Boulevard and east of Hannafin Road, more particularly described as part of Lot 32, Concession 2, Township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file 12T-19002, subject to the draft plan conditions outlined in attachment number 4 to Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-43. Moved by Ms. Brown, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, motion's carried. Information matters, 8.1, official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report, report to December 2nd, 2019. Can I get a motion to receive? Councillor Kelly, Mr. Baltutis. Any questions? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I went to the LPAT meeting that was called last week, and I'm just wondering, given the time frame there, the proposal down on South Church, which was appealed, will there be an LPAT hearing date? Do we have any information?
I'll refer that to staff.
So one of the things when we didn't have, we didn't continue with the hearing was to meet with the developer or sorry, the property owners, builder, and explain what he could do under the existing zoning and comply with the existing zoning without getting any planning approvals. So he's been working on building plans that will comply with the zoning bylaw that wouldn't require planning approvals. And at that stage, if that is the case where they're going to submit a building permit application, they will submit a letter to LPAT requesting that they repeal their appeal, I guess is the way to say it, and then the matter would be addressed and a building permit would be issued and they would be able to build within their legal rights what they have existing right now.
Through you, under the current zoning? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Any general business and inquiries? No, seeing none. Just got a closing statement. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held at a future date. And can I get a motion to adjourn? Mr. Joyce and Councillor Sanderson, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.